The media always loves to report the best performing stocks each year. And investors quite often feel like they're missing out on something and sometimes even chase those and jump into high performing stocks. But what should we do with that kind of information? That's what this video is about. So first of all, I want to look at the 10 best performing stocks in the S&P 500 for the first half of this year, 2026. So this is through the end of June. Okay. SanDisk is up 858% this year. Now, here's the last year return. It just came into the S&P 500 late last year, so that's why its price change last year is not recorded there. Micron Technology is up 304%. Intel, Western Digital, Marvell Technologies, Seagate, Dell Technologies, Corning, Applied Materials, Advanced Micro Devices, all up huge. You can see pretty much like all technology type companies and chip companies. Okay, so what should we do with this kind of information? Well, let's look at last year. Last year, the 10 best performing S&P 500 stocks in 2025. We have Western Digital. That wasn't on the previous list. Micron Technology. That's the only one that is still on the list this first half of this year. We have Seagate, Robinhood, Warner Brothers Discovery, Newmont, Lam Research, Palantir, Comfort Systems, and Carvana. Okay, so only one of these was on the list for the first half of 2026. But you can see they were completely different. And look at some of the returns in 2024 of these. Micron actually was negative in 2024. Western Digital had a 14% return, but here's a couple that were negative the year before. Okay, this one, Palantir, was up big the year before. Okay, how about sectors? Okay, so the S&P 500 best sectors in the first half of 2026. Now, a couple interesting things happen here when we start comparing years. Notice industrials, that might surprise some people, is the number one sector of the S&P 500. There's 11 sectors in the S&P 500. Okay, information technology, okay, that's the second best performing sector. And then we have energy, materials, real estate. Okay, look down here. Financials is the worst performing sector so far this year. And then notice here, consumer services, also pretty flat. Let's compare that to last year. Okay, best performing sectors of 2025. Okay, look at communications. It was the number one. Information technology is still up there, but look at financials. It's up there, had a great year. So even the sectors flip-flop. Look at energy, okay? It's down here. So not only do the same stocks typically, they don't keep being the best performers, but the sectors can also flip-flop. Now, let's take a look at 2022, because that was a year the S&P 500 dropped 18%. So what happened to all the high-flying stocks that had been driving the stock market, the information technology companies? Let's take a look at a few of these. Tesla had been doing great for the years right before that. It dropped 65% in that year alone. Meta, Facebook, dropped 64%. PayPal dropped 62%. Seagate Technology, that was on one of those other lists, dropped 53%. Netflix, 51%. Nvidia, 50%. Amazon, almost 50%. And Microsoft, it had been a great performer, dropped almost 30%. Okay, this is in 2022. Nvidia dropped 50%. Nvidia the year before went up 132%. You can see when you're investing in kind of the high-flying stocks, if we have a weak market, they are also the stocks that are going to get hit the worst. And just keep in mind, a 65% loss needs 186% gain just to get back to even. A 50% loss needs 100% gain to get back to even. Okay, how about the sectors or the best performing stocks in 2022? Well, they were all energy companies. Occidental, Hess, ExxonMobil, Marathon, Schlumberger. Apache, Valero, Constellation Energy, Halliburton, and ConocoPhillips. Everyone was an energy company. In fact, if we looked at the sectors, energy was the only sector that was positive that year. All the other sectors were negative. In fact, look down here at the worst ones: information technology, real estate, communication services, some of the best sectors in other good years. So again, when we're having a good year, the technology companies and all that's been doing great. But if we have kind of a weak year or a down year, those are typically also the areas that are going to get hurt the worst. Now, the best performing SP 500 stocks of 2024, let's say, well, look at this list. We have Palantir, Vistra, NVIDIA, okay, we've seen that before on the good and bad list. United Airlines, something completely different. Exxon Enterprises, Texas Pacific Land, Broadcom, Targa Resources, Howmet Aerospace, Constellation Energy. These are nothing like the stocks, for the most part, that were the best stocks in 2025 and then again in 2026. So again, when you are looking at these lists that the media likes to put out, okay, that is past information. And I realize FOMO can cause us to want to think we're, missing out on something big. But if you jump in then, after you see something up big, typically that's what investment firms call the dumb money, because investors come in late at the top, and that's the worst time to be getting in usually. So the danger of chasing performance. Yesterday's winners aren't always tomorrow's winners. We saw that when we looked at all those different years. Strong past returns often attract investors far too late. High expectations in these stocks can make it difficult for stocks to keep outperforming. They're the most at risk to declines. FOMO often leads investors to buy near market highs and sell during corrections. Diversification beats performance chasing for most investors. Most investors would be far better off sticking to ETFs that own a huge basket of stocks, not trying to be a stock picker, and certainly not trying to chase the past performance. Okay. A disciplined long-term plan is more important than picking last year's best stocks. So just remember, buy great investments, hold them for the long term. Okay. Don't invest in yesterday's headlines. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful. Maybe you picked up a few tips, and thank you for watching. I will see you next time.